this bomb. I'm not going to carry this bomb.
I think you could write the lyrics to that one. The Jim and Terry Show, still carrying weighty thoughts about... Is it the Byrds who wrote Eve of Destruction?
I don't know who did, but it was a great song.
Well, maybe it was Dylan?
No, it wasn't Dylan, no.
It sounds like a Dylan title.
Yeah, he
but
could do
I guess
it,
it's
yeah.
the Byrds, Eve of Destruction. Yeah, so carrying on some loose ends. This is the potpourri, the catch-all, be-all, and end-all of our podcasting for this morning. Any topics that you want to cover? If not, I'll jump in with one of my own.
Well, and you jump in. I think we've covered everything that...
Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh.
We celebrated the departure... Celebrated, that's a wrong word. We acknowledged the departure of Brian Wilson.
Yes.
But we didn't acknowledge Sly and the Family Stones. So he died, I'm thinking, 82 as well. What was Brian Wilson? About the same age.
Yeah, I guess.
So anyway, two icons, one in sort of what I would call...
Pre-hip-hop? I don't know.
Well, the Beach Boy sound, the California Dreamin' beach stuff. And Sly and the Family Stone is definitely a marker in the development of, what do I call it, black music? Motown, before there was Motown. No, they were...
Mainstream black music?
Well, Sly and the Family Stone...
I thought it was already well established by the time they came along. But
by the time
party music? How about party music?
Stone, Sly.
Like Sister Sledge or whatever it was, and weren't they all in the same period?
Yeah, songs like "It's a Family Affair," "Higher Runway," "Thank Yous," "Sing a Simple Song." Okay, yeah. So
what was their main song?
Well, let's see. Most famous hits.
"Celebrate." I don't know. Was that theirs? "Celebrate."
Most famous.
I'm not sure which one was the... We're looking, folks. We're looking. Okay, give us a break.
Everyday People.
Oh.
I am everyday people. There you go. Yeah, okay. So it's just to acknowledge that, and I'm saying that because Juneteenth is today. We don't celebrate it in Canada, but it is the Abolition of Slavery Day in the United States. I believe that was the day the final note reached the last outpost where slaves were kept in Texas, I believe.
I thought this was the remembrance of the destruction of the the black industry in the United States.
No, the bombing of the Tulsa, the Oklahoma neighborhood. I don't think so, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well,
I just want to do Sly because... I have a good friend who, from Jamaica. We were best buds, and the only black family in our neighborhood in the Waspy area of East End of Toronto. And he was my friend and my classmate, and we kept on. He was the best man at my wedding, my first wedding. So this guy introduced me to all kinds of music that was foreign to my ears. And one of them was Sly and the Family Stone. Earth, Wind and Fire was another band that he introduced me to, as well as Oscar Peterson. So I got a touch of jazz and classics and black culture growing up. That
explains the dreadlocks too.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to cut them off. So all of this, he passed away. I wanted to make sure on Juneteenth, the anti-slavery, abolition of slavery in the United States. So that we acknowledge black culture and black music. And there you go. The Jim and Terry Show covering a diversity. Did you get that article? This is Stream of Consciousness podcasting. I told you there was an article based on a court decision. I'm going to say a federal judge ruled that DEI, if you oppose DEI, that you are racist. You might as well put on a white hood and burn a cross on your front lawn.
What is DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
And I wrote you an email and I said, as far as I'm concerned, people are saying woke this, woke that, and they're not woke and they don't want to be woke. And I'm saying, but Jesus was woke. And I explained it by saying, who did Jesus go to? Who did he minister? The answer is everybody. Did he leave anybody out? No. So if you're lifting up everybody, you're the Jesus people. And I said DEI is the same as WWJD.
I don't know. Maybe
You don't have to know. You can have an opinion because that's what we do. We don't know. We just have, I was thinking about this. So that was my thought. And when I saw the court ruling talking about it yesterday, I thought, somebody's saying, well, if you aren't woke, you're racist. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I don't know about that either. I mean,
well, you're entitled to your opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it would be nice if we just everybody carried on in their lives and we didn't have to have all these distinctions anymore. I don't know if I'm walking by a gay people or what.
Should you know? Should you have to know?
I don't think you should.
No,
that's my
people
point.
don't have to wear. Although you could tell certain things by mannerisms, gesture, language.
Well, two guys holding a hand, chances are they're gay.
Hair color, piercings.
I don't.
Tattoos.
I think. I was hoping we would be past the gay parades and everything. I personally don't like them, but I will fight for their right to do that. I think there should be some restrictions.
I don't know if I would fight for their right to be naked.
I wouldn't fight.
Or, semi-clothed or provocatively.
That's and I think that's the problem. Maybe that was meant to make their mark.
I think
noticed.
It was a shock value.
Shock factor. But now let's end the shock factor. Let's just say that, there's no discrimination. If someone's gay,
there you go. There's no discrimination.
Yeah, and so that's not on the question. If you want a job, it's not on the questionnaire. It's I think people have to reason certain things out themselves. I mean, if you're going to some heterosexual club that hates gays, don't be applying for a job there because you're always going to have hate groups, always.
Yep.
But for most of society, I think it's time for the extravagant parades and everything to stop and just let's be people. I'm sick and tired of the separations, I guess.
Well, there's another separation, church and state. Is there a separation of people and politics, or is that now merged now into Project 2025 or conservatism in the United States? Where is all this? Is politics different, or is it part of your life, like your faith?
These are hard questions, really. Because
they're supposed to be hard,
it's definitely
Jim.
not part of my faith. But you mentioned church and state and everything else. Again, the same thing. I have to apply the same principles then that I would with the gay organization as I would with a Christian organization. If all of a sudden your leaders driving around in jets and everything else and living in multiple mansions, maybe you should be taxed. Maybe you're really going to be a different form of church because it's not. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Church should be serving, if anything, in the community. And if not serving, they should be able to be left alone to worship and praise God. And we already now have a standard because we had to fill it out at our church that you're only allowed to take so much money in and then you start paying taxes. And I like that.
Is that a federal government?
I believe so.
Okay.
And we had to fill out forms. And it's generous. It's generous enough. But if you get to a certain point, you have to justify what that point is.
Yeah, because the church is seeming to become a business rather than a service.
Yeah, and I still think you can have a big church that's not a business.
Right.
But they're going to have to justify it. That's all.
Yeah, and explain where the money goes.
Yeah. And so we had to fill that out, and our denomination actually helped us figure out how to do that. In other words, instead of all the churches having to get a lawyer to figure it out, they provided a lawyer and put the paperwork together, and here's the standard.
Wow.
If you bring in this much, this is it. If you bring in that much, and on and on and on it goes.
So it's just like a tax code.
Yeah, same idea, just to make sure that you're not all of a sudden operating a couple of businesses under the guise of a church.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's something that if you're going to be tax exempt, you should have to do.
I agree.
Yeah, so, and the same idea. And if you're not that, just be what you are and carry on, carry on. Yeah.
Okay, in the United States, I think it is the state of Missouri, which doesn't surprise me at all, voting in the state legislature to include Bible study as part of your curriculum.
Well, again, it's funny, as a Christian, I don't believe in forcing the faith on you. So I don't believe in that. I believe, and I go all the way back to the Spaniards forcing people to get baptized.
The black robes.
That's not Christianity. Yeah. That's not salvation.
No.
Salvation is a personal decision to believe the report on Christ, God and his son, and that's it. So I'm not going to force people to be Christian. That just goes totally against God's desire for self-will.
Okay, quick question on wrapping this episode up, which has covered a lot of stuff. ICE.
Ice as in my drink?
ICE as in armed forces rounding up immigrants.
Well, they've reversed that, which was stupid. Trump now says, yeah, you can go take them out of the fields. They're going to have a real problem, nuclear problem.
How about masks on your armed forces?
Well, that I don't understand, but there they have them, and it don't look like armed forces at all.
Doesn't at all.
Yeah.
Jim and Terry Show covering some controversial stuff this morning. Take care now. Bye-bye.
I don't wanna carry this load. Though the sweat of my brow and the toil of my hands has got me so far into this promised land.